You know, as the pilot of the space shuttle, during a rendezvous, approach, and a docking, like to ISS, you're actually not doing the piloting. The commander is. He's doing the flying in the final phases of the rendezvous and the approach. So as we first approach the space station, I'm sitting in the left seat, so I can't really see anything. So I didn't have, you know, my first look at the space station was after we docked. And, you know, having that big picture view of station as a shuttle pilot, you don't get until you undock and you're leaving space station. And it's impressive. I've seen the thing grow. You know, over the years, I've visited ISS in 2001, 2006, and 2008, so I've seen it through, you know, from the beginning here through a lot of different stages.
Scott, as commander of STS-118 and Mark as commander of STS-124, I have to ask, who threaded the needle the best for docking?
I don't know. You know, I watched his approach, which looked really, really good. I think it was almost as good as mine.
Scott, what led you down a different road after STS-118 to begin training for a ride to the space station in a Soyuz vehicle and training to become a space station commander? And for Mark, why did you remain on a shuttle path rather than following your brother's footsteps to go for Soyuz and Russian training?
My, you know, after STS-103, one of the crew members on 103 was Mike Foll, who was also at the time, you know, doing double duties as a, you know, associate center director, I think was his title. And, you know, he thought I would be a good person to be the, what's called the director of operations in Star City. So, you know, we talked about that, and I decided that maybe, you know, that'd be a good experience. Never intending to get on this space station track as soon as I did. You know, I thought my career would be flying a couple shuttle flights as a pilot, and then a couple as the shuttle commander, and then later maybe flying a long duration flight. But then, you know, after I was the DOR, Director of Operations in Star City for, I don't know, about 9 months, soon after I got back, I thought I was gonna, you know, get assigned as a pilot again, but for whatever reason, the chief of the astronaut office decided to ask me to be a backup for Expedition 5, and the plan was for me not to fly as the prime, but just be the backup. And he said he would then assign me as the commander of a shuttle flight, and then the commander of the space station. Actually wound up, you know, being true. You know, what he said was the plan for me, but it just, because of the Columbia accident, obviously took much longer. But it wasn't really something I was particularly interested in at the time. I would have rather flown the 2 pilot flights and 2 commander flights, but being just a, you know, military type of guy I am, I couldn't say no. And I said, well, you know, if that's what you want me to do, you know, that's what I'll do.
So Rob, you asked that question like we have a lot of control over this, and we actually really don't. I mean, it's not like you go into the office and you say, hey, I want to be on this flight, and then I want to be on this one. It's really, you know, the chief of the astronaut office, Peggy Whitson now, I mean, she makes the decisions of, you know, who is on which flight. And it's, you know, to a large extent, it's really out of your control. You know, in my case, I've been fortunate enough to fly, you know, 3 shuttle flights so far. And this flight, which I think will wind up being the last flight of Space Shuttle Endeavour. And it's been, you know, certainly a great opportunity and a privilege to get to do that.
Scott, how different is it going to be when you strap into a Soyuz vehicle, knowing you're basically a passenger in the right seat, heading uphill with your knees up in your throat, very tight capsule, Mercury style basically, Gemini maybe at the most. What do you think that's going to be like in contrast?
Well, I'll certainly have a lot less to do than you know, during that time in the Soyuz than on a shuttle ascent or entry for that matter. You know, as the flight engineer number 2, you're sort of, you know, a passenger. You do have some responsibilities, but you're, you know, it's kind of like being somewhere between, you know, mission specialist number 1 on a shuttle and sitting on the middeck. Your role. So, you know, in that regard, it will be different. It's kind of neat that it's, you know, a rocket, like a, you know, traditional rocket. So it'll be good to have that experience, especially as we move on to a new vehicle after the space shuttle program.
Mark, you're going to be traveling to the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan to watch your brothers launch. What do you think that's going to be like for you, knowing ultimately that you're going to be meeting up with them in space?
I've only been to Russia once, and it was a long time ago, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually taking Russian classes right now to see if I can get a little bit of Russian language ability. Well, I kind of quit. I quit last week, but you know, I did a couple months. You know, for me, it's really a great opportunity to not only see, you know, another space launch with people on board, but to see my brother climbing into the Soyuz and, you know, launching from another country. I mean, it's going to be amazing. I think at least one of my parents are going to be there, one of our parents, a lot of friends, some other family members. So it's really something I'm really looking forward to.
And for you, Scott, knowing that your brother's there, not necessarily next to you, but certainly in spirit, how's that going to be from a support standpoint mentally for you?
That'll be great. And, you know, I'll have friends and other family members there. He's going to be one of the family escorts. Hopefully, at least one of my kids will be there. And so it'll be good that he's there, you know, with my daughter.
And then if something happens to him, just like accidentally, you know, and he can't fly, he's got another backup.
Who do you think's got the harder job? This is sort of a loaded question, and you're going to be biased about this, of course, in your answer. But who's got the harder job? A shuttle commander for a short sprint type of mission, if you will, or a station commander who has to oversee a giant complex for a half year in a multinational environment?
Well, I think I could probably better answer that question, although, you know, I haven't been the station commander, but having had all the training and having a fairly good understanding of what the job entails, they're clearly different. You know, the missions are different. You know, the shuttle is very, you know, the shuttle mission timeline is very scripted. You train practically everything you're going to do multiple times. You have a you know, larger support structure, I think, here at the Johnson Space Center when you're training. As a station crew member, in some ways the training's somewhat more autonomous in that you do a lot of it by yourself. It's in you know, various countries, different systems, and different you know, types of, you know, philosophies on design and the hardware. And then, you know, the other thing too is it's more of a, you know, we call it an expedition for a reason. It's you know, it's a long duration mission that involves, you know, being isolated from friends and family. The training also has somewhat of that aspect that you travel around to these different countries. So I think you know, overall, I think probably the station flight presents more difficulty, but they're kind of really hard to compare because they are so much different.
I think, Rob, you almost answered the question in your question. You said the short sprint or the long duration, you know, expedition, and I think it, you know, just like a race, right? What's harder, the sprint or the, you know, the long run? And they're hard for their own reasons, and you know, they just have unique, different things about them that are both difficult.